Hey, what's going on, guys? I want to share something with you real quick. I want you to look at this verse right here, all right? Now look what it says. It says, with God, all things are possible. And I know you've heard that a million times, but I want you to pay attention to the beginning. It says, with God, not for God. We know for God, everything is possible. He can do all things. It says, with God. That means that you and I are involved in that nothing is impossible thing, that all things are possible thing. It says with God. That means we're in the mix. We're somewhere in there involved with God. It's God and us and God. Okay? Now that's key for confidence to actually do some things, some damage to the kingdom of darkness here in this world. Okay? When the angel came to Mary to let her know about the coming of the anointed one through her womb, right? He told her, don't be afraid, don't doubt, don't worry. With God, all things are possible. Like, this is gonna happen, and it's gonna happen, okay? God can do all things, and he'll do it with you, okay? Now, Jesus didn't come to earth by just appearing. He poof, disappeared out of heaven, and poof, appeared on earth. That's not what happened. He came in a human, and a human had to host him and carry him and actually steward the anointed one. She stewarded him for 9 months, and then he was born, and guess what? She still stewarded him. She still spent time with him. She still got to know him. She still was with him, and she co-labored with him in coming to earth. She co-labored with God in bringing the anointed one to earth. And that's exactly what you and me do today. With God, all things are possible. That means the things that God can do, he actually does them with us. There's a stewarding responsibility for us, stewarding the anointing that's in us, the holy anointing that's in us, that God has given us as his sons and daughters. And we're able to steward the anointing and actually co-labor with him in bringing that anointing to the world and doing his marvelous will. It's amazing. It says, let's go back to it, with God all things are possible. So you're involved, I'm involved, and we have a responsibility to steward the anointing and to actually bring it to the world, okay? Mary still had to give birth. Mary still had to walk with the anointing and not only keep the anointed one inside, she let the anointed one out to the world. We are not anointed just to be anointed for ourselves. We're anointed not to keep it to ourselves, but to release it and give it to the world, right? With God, all things are possible, like healing the sick, like delivering the oppressed, like bringing comfort and encouragement to somebody who's discouraged, like bringing exhortation, like bringing freedom, like bringing peace and joy, like bringing love, like bringing freedom and life to the dead, like resurrection, like casting out of demons, like cleansing the lepers and healing skin diseases and stuff like that. That's the impossible to man, but it's possible to God, for God, and with God. That means for you and for me, it's possible because we have the anointing. Mary had the anointed one. We have the anointing, and we're able to steward and release to the word, steward and give to the word, steward and do the impossible with God, for with him all things are possible. So that's good news for me and you today. With God, all things are possible. And guess what? He's with you. He's actually in you. He never leaves you or forsakes you. So today you can walk and do all things. The impossible things that are to the world are possible for you because you are with God, and with God, all things are possible. Now go out there and do some supernatural things because you're with God. He's with you, and with God, all things are possible. It's amazing. It's good news. Bless you guys.